that Alexei Navalny, who was poisoned in Russia several weeks ago and flown out to Germany, they are now confirming, the German government, that he was poisoned with a nerve agent in Russia called Novichok. And I can tell you there is widespread shock through Europe and elsewhere because Novichok is well known to be a chemical nerve agent that only the Russian security services have access to. It was used on a ex-member of military intelligence, the Russian GRU, in Salisbury, England, 2 years ago. His name was Sergei Skripal. He collapsed in the middle of Salisbury with his daughter Yulia, and they barely survived. And he had been a member of Russian military intelligence, and suddenly he was given this nerve agent, and they were able to trace back, using all of the video from the airport access points, to find that several men had entered from Russia. They had entered England from Russia, and they had applied the nerve agent on a door handle of Sergei Skripal's home. And now suddenly you have Alexei Navalny, who is a very well-known opposition member in Russia, who has been poisoned with Novichok. According to the German government, Angela Merkel's spokesman has put this out. There is no doubt, they say, that Novichok was used in the poisoning of Alexei Navalny, and who would do it? And they have demanded explanations from Russia, because this nerve agent, first of all, was developed by the Russian military, and only the security services of Russia should have and would have access to it. And of course, the Russian Kremlin is denying any knowledge of this, but only they would have access. So you start taking a look, play detective here for a moment, the motive and the means. The motive and the means, so that the Russian government has the means, and you can argue, and many critics will, that they have the motive to poison Alexei Navalny because he represents a threat to the Kremlin and to Vladimir Putin, in that he has set the street on fire in some places in terms of calling people out to demonstrate against the Kremlin. And so Navalny, about a month ago, last month, in August, was on a flight from Omsk, and he was poisoned at the airport after drinking some tea. The Russian government denied that he had been poisoned, but he was then airlifted out to Germany. He still remains in a coma, and the Russian government now is being implicated in this by the German government, demanding answers from them and saying that they're going to refer all of this now to the European Union and NATO. So, big story today. The implications, I think that this will fuel more talk of sanctions against Russia, against the Russian government, because many will say very clearly, it looks like this is a poisoning probably carried out by the Russian security services, because they're the only ones that would have access to this nerve agent. And if anybody else has access to it, then that's an even bigger question. This stuff just doesn't float around. It's extremely restricted, that was secretly developed by Russia in the 70s and 80s. Hello, Mark from Los Angeles. Hi, Lucia from Santo Domingo. So, again, just letting you know, there's breaking news in Europe. Today I'm in London, but we're hearing from the German government that they say that there is no doubt that Alexei Navalny, the main opposition member of Russia, who is in a coma in a German hospital, has been poisoned with Novichok, a nerve agent used by Russian security services and traced to Russian security services in the past. Mark saying in his comments here, it's so shocking to think the Russian government continues to attack and kill their critics seemingly without consequences. I mean, Mark, it's an interesting point. It's bold, and it almost seems reckless somehow, unless they think that Alexei Navalny wasn't going to be flown out of Russia and wasn't going to be examined independently, but in the end he was. And in fact, there have been penalties against the Russian government, and there are growing calls for more and more sanctions against Putin's regime, both in America and the European Union and elsewhere. So this is not going to play very well, and it certainly implicates the Kremlin. and even Vladimir Putin himself. So we'll be watching this story as it develops, and there'll be a lot of different governments commenting on it now, and I think you'll hear comments from the U.S. government today, and other people like Bill Browder, who has been campaigning for more sanctions against the Russian Kremlin in the form of the Magnitsky Act, which Magnitsky was his lawyer who died in prison in Russia, and Bill Browder, an American-born British citizen, has been pushing the EU, America, Canada, the British government to push through the Magnitsky Act, which some of them have, which involves sanctions against the inner circle of Vladimir Putin, and it also involves going after their bank accounts in foreign banks. So are the European governments unified in their response? It's too early to know right now, because this is just breaking news out of Europe that the poisoning has occurred. The first one really to speak about it is the German government. This has just happened now in the last, less than half an hour. We're getting word from the German government spokesman, the spokesman for Angela Merkel, who is saying there's no doubt that it was a chemical nerve agent that was given to Alexei Navalny called Novichok. And by the way, if you listen to my podcast at all, Backstory with Dana Lewis, there's a very good one in there about Russia's shadow state. And we talk about a lot of this and the boldness of the Kremlin and why they would do these things and what their end motive is by disrupting American elections, by interfering in Europe. It's a very good explainer. So what is the name of your podcast? Backstory with Dana Lewis. And you can search that on any podcast platform and find it. And it'd be great if you sign up and listen to it. But anyway, we will come back later today and give you an update on this poisoning of a Russian opposition member who's in a coma in Germany and fighting for his life. And now we know for sure that he was poisoned. And he was poisoned, remarkably, with a nerve agent called Novichok, according to the German government. There is no doubt. That's right, Backstory with Dana Lewis, Lucia. And so he has been poisoned with Novichok, the same nerve agent that was used in Salisbury, England 2 years ago by the GRU, the military intelligence arm of the Russian army. Members of the GRU have been identified and traced to England at that time and to Salisbury at that time. And in that case, the man who had been a former spy for the West and originally a member of the GRU survived the poisoning, but it took months for him to come out of the hospital, and I don't know if he's ever been the same again. So the magic of Novichok, somebody wrote here. Novichok is a nerve agent that was developed by the Soviet Union in the 70s and 80s. It is under lock and key with the Russian government. Nobody else has it. It is one of the most lethal nerve agents that you can give anybody, more lethal than VX gas. So motive and means and access to the nerve agent, a lot of fingers pointing towards the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin today, and we'll have more reaction later on.